So the so-called red wave that was expected didn't happen on election night, and the general consensus among Democrats is that the president had a very good night. President Biden spent election night in the White House watching results roll in, and as Democrats were starting to pick up seats or retain their seats, he was making phone calls to congratulate them. He called Senators Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, Michael Bennet of Colorado, and Maggie Hassan of New Hampshire, just to name a few. And then around 2 a.m., when the result rolled in that Pennsylvania Democrat John Fetterman won his race for the Senate seat, the president texted him late at night. The John Fetterman race was one that the president was watching particularly closely. He considers Pennsylvania kind of a second home to him, and he went to that state multiple times over the last month to rally with Fetterman. Fetterman beat Dr. Oz, who was a Trump-endorsed candidate.
I never expected that we were going to turn these red counties blue, but we did what we needed to do.
And a lot of the campaign came down to how this one debate went. Fetterman had suffered a stroke in May, and the president has really backed him and said that his health was not an issue for him to be in the Senate. And in this debate, Pennsylvania people and America overall got to see how that stroke affected his health. Also in the debate, Dr. Oz had said that the decision to have an abortion comes down to women, their doctor, and local leaders. And I think that phrase made Democrats excited about getting the issue of abortion back on the ballot and back at top of people's minds. The Republicans really tried to focus this campaign on the economy and crime, which are two things that the president has tried to stress that he's focused on and trying to, ease inflation. But Democrats also really wanted to bring the issue of reproductive rights on the ballot. There was so much enthusiasm about that in August, and it seemed to be dwindling. But I think what we saw on election night showed that there were voters, maybe independents and moderates, that definitely saw abortion as a major factor when they went to the ballot box. The president was also vindicated in some of these big governor races across the US. He called Maryland Governor-elect Wes Moore on Tuesday night to congratulate him. Wes Moore was somebody who very decisively won in his state and is considered a rising star of the Democratic Party.
And it's because you believed that I stand here humbled and ready to become the 63rd governor of the state of Maryland.
And the president actually spent his last day campaigning with Moore on Monday night in Maryland. That was actually a full circle moment for the president because he opened this midterm season with Moore in August in Rockville, Maryland. So having them both on stage to support Moore shows that he really is someone who Democrats are very focused on. And interestingly enough, Moore beat a Trump-backed candidate, Dan Cox. Dan Cox was somebody who had supported rioters going to the Capitol on January 6th and is an election denier. And so that race really showed the difference between these Trump-backed election denier candidates versus these Biden candidates. While a lot is still unresolved in terms of the balance of power in Congress, Republicans were hoping to pick up 25 plus seats, and now it will look like they'll just pick up maybe several seats and have a pretty slim margin, which makes life a little more difficult for the potential next speaker, Kevin McCarthy. Control of the Senate is still in limbo, and it looks like Georgia is heading to a runoff election. That election is another one that the president is closely watching, of course, with Senator Warnock running against Trump-backed candidate Herschel Walker. And then looking ahead, I think Democrats are focused on what the next move is for President Biden. He had a good night on Tuesday, so does that mean he'll be announcing that he's running for re-election in 2024 sooner rather than later? Will he build on this momentum to get Democrats more excited about him running again? The White House has for months been indicating that the president does intend to run again, and I think after Tuesday night's results, they can really show that the president is ready to make his decision.
While we don't know all the results yet, at least I don't know them all yet, here's what we do know. While the press and the pundits are predicting a giant red wave, it didn't happen.
We'll see if the president will announce by the new year or if he'll keep Democrats waiting even longer.